Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. I wanted to come to you today with a book haul. I had the opportunity yesterday of taking some of my Christmas money that I had gotten, and I got to go down to St. Joe and visit some bookstores and picked up a few items along the way, and I thought I'd share those with you. So, I hope you like that. But on the way down, the first store we stopped at was the Dollar Tree. And I kind of like going into the Dollar Tree. It's usually hit and miss on what they have, but everything's $1, and you can't beat that. And so when you get a brand new hardback book for $1, there's really no complaining that you can do. And so when I was in there, I found some fiction works in there, but I did not pick those up. The one that I did go ahead and pick up was a nonfiction piece, George Washington's Secret Spy War: The Making of America's First Spymaster by John A. Nagy. And so I thought that was a pretty good deal. This is a book from St. Martin's Press out of New York, and it is a 2016 book. And so I was really happy to find that only for $1. I'll go ahead and read, I'll try to read the covers of these to you. It says, the untold story of how George Washington, a Virginia farmer, became the 18th century's greatest and America's first spymaster. So George Washington's skill as a spymaster won the war for independence. And this is the groundbreaking story of how he took a disorderly, ill-equipped rabble and defeated the best trained and best equipped army of its day. Author John A. Nagy has become the nation's leading expert on the subject, discovering hundreds of spies who went behind enemy lines to gather intelligence during the American Revolution, many of whom are completely unknown to most historians. Using George Washington's diary as the primary source, Nagy tells the story of Washington's first steps in the field of espionage. Despite what many believe, Washington did not come to the American Revolution completely unskilled in this area of warfare. Espionage was a skill he honed during the French and Indian War and upon which he heavily depended during the Revolutionary War. He used espionage to level the playing field and then exploited it on to the final victory. Filled with thrilling and never-before-told stories from the battlefield and behind enemy lines, this is the story of how Washington outspied the British. For the first time, readers will discover how espionage played a major part in the American Revolution and why Washington was a master at orchestrating it. So, it sounds like it'll be good. I was a big fan of the show Turn, and that was all about the spy ring that Washington ran. And so this will just kind of, add into that love of espionage, I guess, during the American Revolution. So I was happy to pick that up for only $1. The next place that I went to Books Revisited, and Books Revisited is a little used bookstore that sits right beside the city library there. And when they go through the city library and they cycle through the books that they want to take out of the collection so that they can bring new stuff in, those books go down to or over to the Books Revisited bookstore, and they sell paperbacks for $1, hardbacks for $2, and they are usually in very, very good condition. And the store also takes donations from people's personal collections and sells those. And so I try to make it down there at least once a month, if not a couple times a month. I thoroughly enjoy that store. They always got a nice selection of books. You never know what you're going to get. It's constantly being turned over, but in recent book hauls, I've picked up quite a few like Civil War pieces, and because we get a lot of Civil War history in our neck of the woods out here in the Midwest, and so we get a lot of that. And last year, about this time, and for the first couple months of the year, we were getting Books Revisited was getting a lot of American Revolution stuff. So, both of those are right up my alley. I love both of those topics. And so I really like going to that store. I'm on a pretty good friendly basis with most of the staff I know them and they know me, and that was the case yesterday. The gentleman behind the desk was, we don't remember each other's names. I don't know why we don't tell each other our names, but we know each other's faces. And he was introducing me to another customer, and he says, "Oh, this guy over here, he teaches history. He loves to read history, and he knows what my selections are." And that's kind of nice when you get a staff that knows you, even if we're not on a first name basis yet. I'm guessing that's going to happen sometime sooner or later. But he does know me in my reading taste, and that's always kind of nice. And he always, if he's got something in the back that he just hasn't brought out to the shelf yet, he'll say, "Hey, wait a minute here. Let me go get this book back here. You might be interested in this. We got this in yesterday or whatever." And so that's always kind of nice to see. So anyway, I was in there, and really what I was looking for is I was on somebody's channel out there, and they were going to do a readathon on the Count of Monte Cristo, and the book that she had was a big old thick one, and I apparently read the abridged version when I was first in college, and I absolutely loved the book. And I don't know if I just didn't realize it was abridged. I don't know. I was young, but she was going to do a readathon for the original, which is a monster, and I wanted to pick that up, and they did not have it. I was talking to him, and he said, "No, we don't get very many of those in." But as I got to looking in the classics section, because each of the bookshelves, they've kind of got labeled, classics, fiction, thrillers, American history, that kind of stuff. So I was looking in the classics, and lo and behold, guess what I found? I found an Anthony Trollope, and this actually has 3 books in it. I have never read Trollope before, and so this is going to be brand new to me. It says they're complete and unabridged, and after I got on BookTube almost a year ago, I kept seeing Steve Donahue and a whole bunch of other people. He was kind of leading the readathon for Trollope books, and I had never even heard of Trollope, and so it was brand new to me, and I've been wanting to try that. And one of my other bookstores had one. One of my used bookstores had one, but that bookstore went out of business. And so I was like, man, I didn't pick it up. So I found this, bought it, and it has the Barchester Towers, Miss MacKenzie, and Cousin Henry. Now, I don't know if those are if those particular ones are any good. So I'm asking you guys out there for some advice. If I was going to read this, which one of those 3, for a person who's brand new to Anthony Trollope, which one of those 3 should I start with? I need your help on that. So if you could maybe give me your vote, which one you think I'd like the best, and I'll take that all definitely into consideration. So anyway, got this Trollope book. Not in bad shape. It's only $1. It's got a little bit of a bent spine, but that's all right. That's not gonna bother me any. It is a Longmeadow Publishers from the Great Classic Library, and it was published in 1995. So anyway, that was something I picked up. And another one I picked up, it looked real interesting. It was something I wasn't really looking for, but it looked interesting. It's called Midnight in Broad Daylight, A Japanese-American Family Caught Between Two Worlds, by Pamela Rotner Sakamoto. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But this book apparently, as I was reading a little bit on it, it was saying that this book is about 2 families, during World War II that were on opposite sides, 2 Japanese families, or excuse me, 1 Japanese family that was split to the 2 sides. So let me read this to you. It says, meticulously researched and beautifully written, Midnight in Broad Daylight is the true story of a Japanese-American family that found itself on opposite sides during World War II. An epic tale of family separation and divided loyalties, love, reconciliation, loss, and redemption. Pamela Rotner Sakamoto's history is a riveting chronicle of U.S.-Japan relations and of the Japanese experience in America. After their father's death, the Fukuhara children, all born and raised in the Pacific Northwest, moved with their mother to Hiroshima, their parents' ancestral home. Eager to go back to America, Harry and his sister Mary returned there in the late 1930s. Then came Pearl Harbor. Harry and Mary were sent to an internment camp until a call came for Japanese translators, and Harry dutifully volunteered to serve his country. Back in Hiroshima, their brothers Frank and Pierce became soldiers in the Imperial Japanese Army. As the war raged on, Harry, one of the finest bilingual interpreters in the United States Army, island hopped across the Pacific, moving ever closer to the enemy and to his younger brothers. But before Fukuhara's would have to face one another in battle, the U.S. detonated the atomic bomb over Hiroshima, gravely injuring tens of thousands of civilians, including members of the Fukuhara family. Alternating between American and Japanese perspectives, midnight and broad daylight captures the uncertainty and the intensity of those charged with the fighting, as well as the deteriorating home front of Hiroshima. Never depicted before in English, and provides a fresh look at the events surrounding the dropping of the first atomic bomb. Intimate and evocative, here is an indelible portrait of a resilient family, a scathing examination of racism and xenophobia, and homage to the tremendous Japanese-American contribution to the American war effort, and an invaluable addition to the historical record of this extraordinary time. And so this is a HarperCollins book, and it is from 2016. And so this just sounded pretty interesting on, stuff with World War II. And of course we all know about the definite unfortunate events, the racism involved in some of those decisions once the bomb, or what's Pearl Harbor happened. And it's a very tragic event in U.S. history. But anyway, sounded interesting. A family split because of the war. So I picked that up. And then another one I picked up, this is probably the one that I'm most excited about from Books Revisited, because I had watched a book review by Nolan Thomas Harp, I think that's his channel, or his name in his channel. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong, but he did a book review on John Quincy Adams, book on John Quincy Adams, and I have wanted to pick up something on John Quincy Adams. I read about him in two other of my history books, and I have no biographies on him, I don't believe. And so I've been wanting to pick up a book on him, and lo and behold, when I was at Books Revisited, I found one, and this is Mr. Adams's Last Crusade, John Quincy Adams's Extraordinary Post-Presidential Life in Congress by Joseph Wheelan. And so this sounded pretty awesome, because this is the part after his presidency is really what I want to look at, because I think it's amazing that the man went back into Congress to serve, I can't remember how many years, but several years after his presidency, and was fighting the good fight. And one of his awesome fights that he was fighting was slavery. And of course, as you guys know from my channel, from my previous videos, that's one of the things that when I'm teaching my American history, that's one of the big topics, the running theme through my 8th grade class is, trying to end slavery. And so John Quincy Adams is rarely heralded as one of America's great presidents, following his single term as chief executive from 1825 to 1829. Adams seemed destined for a quiet retirement among his books and plants, but when the 63-year-old former president, U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, diplomat, was elected to the House of Representatives by his Massachusetts neighbors, he embarked on a spectacular late-life career full of surprises. Over the next 17 years, Adams, in many ways, redeemed his failed presidency. He became Congress's most acerbic and influential critic of slavery, as well as a tireless proponent for human freedoms and First Amendment rights. From his fierce defense of the right to petition against Congress's gag rule, squelching all discussion of slavery, to his advocacy for the Africans of the Amistad, Adams was driven by duty, patriotism, and a refined moral sense to give voice to the voiceless. At the opening of America's industrial age, this remarkable congressional career, particularly his championing of the abolitionist cause, utterly transformed him, the public's perception of him, and his legacy. When he died at the age of 80 at his post of duty in the U.S. Capitol, Adams was revered as the iconic last link to the Revolutionary Age. Informed by the raucous spirit of the Jackson era, Mr. Adams's Last Crusade renders a witty, insightful portrait of a man who placed his country above politics. And I just think that's absolutely awesome. I have a lot of respect for him, and I would like to learn more, and that's why I was real excited to find this book. So this is from Public Affairs Publishers out of New York, and it is a 2008 book. So, great for the collection. Another one that I picked up that looked interesting. This is The Remarkable Life of William Marshall, The Power Behind 5 English Thrones, The Greatest Knight. The Greatest Knight, The Remarkable Life of William Marshall and the Power Behind the 5 English Thrones. Said that backwards. Thomas Asbridge is your author, and so this is, I gotta get that sticker off there, but anyway, this was one, looked interesting. It is a HarperCollins book, and it is from 2014. And let me read this one to you. So, a thrillingly intimate portrait of one of history's most illustrious knights, William Marshall, that vividly evokes the grandeur and the barbarity of the Middle Ages. And of course, I just got done finishing up my semester with the Middle Ages, and so this is going to hit home for me because we just got done with that big unit on the Middle Ages. So, William Marshall was the true Lancelot of his era, a peerless warrior and a paragon of chivalry. Yet over the centuries, the spectacular story of his achievement passed from memory. Marshall became just one more name in the dusty annals of history. Then, in 1861, a young French scholar named Paul Meyer made a startling discovery during an auction of rare medieval manuscripts. Meyer stumbled upon the sole surviving copy of an unknown text, the first contemporary biography of a medieval knight, later dubbed The History of William Marshall. This richly detailed work helped to resurrect Marshall's reputation, putting flesh onto the bones of this otherwise obscure figure, yet even today William Marshall remains largely forgotten. As a 5-year-old boy, Marshall was sentenced to execution and led to the gallows, but his landless younger son survived his brush with death. His brush with death and went on to train as a knight. Against all odds, Marshall rose through the ranks, serving at the right hand of 5 English monarchs to become a celebrated tournament champion, a baron, a politician, and ultimately a regent of the realm. William Marshall befriended the great figures of his day, from Richard the Lionheart and Eleanor of Aquitaine to the infamous King John, and helped to negotiate the terms of the Magna Carta, the first Bill of Rights. By the age of 70, the once forsaken child had been transformed into the most powerful man in England, yet he was forced to fight in the front line of one final battle, striving to save the kingdom from a French invasion in 1217. In The Greatest Knight, the renowned historian Thomas Asbridge draws upon the 13th century biography and an array of other contemporary evidence to present a compelling account of William Marshall's life and times. Asbridge follows Marshall on his journey from rural England onto the battlefields of France, to the desert castles of the Holy Land, and the verdant shores of Ireland, charting the unparalleled rise to prominence of a man bound to a code of honor, yet driven by unquenchable ambition. This knight's tale lays bare the brutish realities of medieval warfare and machinations of the royal court, and draws us into the heart of a formative period of our history when the West emerged from the Dark Ages and stood on the brink of modernity. Man. It is the story of one remarkable man, the birth of the knightly class to which he belonged and the forging of the English nation. And so I was real excited to get that. I don't have a lot of books on the Middle Ages, but it's becoming one of my favorite units in my high school class, in my world history class to teach. And so I really have been trying to pick up all the ones that I find. I've been trying to pick up those items on the Middle Ages, those books. The last one that I found at Books Revisited was Jamestown, The Buried Truth, from the lead archaeologist who unearthed the secrets of America's birthplace by William M. Kelso. And the cover got a little bit messed up there, but otherwise it's in really good shape. And I'm super excited to look at this one because it's got a lot of the color photos on the inside here of the digs. And I've been going over these with my kids in class when we cover Jamestown. There's a website called Jamestown Rediscovered, or Rediscovering Jamestown. Good night. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, the website's got videos of all of the archaeological finds that they have, and I have my kids go there and we look at, what is modern history, or what is a modern day historian do to look at, places like Jamestown. And so we're looking at archaeology and stuff, really cool. So this goes right along with that. And so I'm not going to read the cover on this because this is, I think probably the, you don't need to have the cover read. It's kind of self-explanatory. But they're, studying Jamestown from their digs, from the finds. So that was the rest. That was all of them at Books Revisited. And then on the way home, the final store that I got to stop at was the Jesse James Outlet Mall. And so they always have books in there. It's like an antique dealer. Everybody's got little areas where their stuff is. And there's one particular dealer that has books back there. And he's always got stuff on the Civil War and the Wild West and a lot of World War II stuff. And then there's hit and misses in between. And so I picked up some stuff. And before I got back there, I actually picked up some, for $1, 100 card sleeves so I can get my baseball cards put back into sleeves. So that was kind of nice. The first book that I got there, the first of two, and then we're done with the video, is Adams, An American Dynasty by Francis Russell. And so, sticking with that John Adams theme here, and this will cover all the, a lot of the Adams. And I thought this would be good. So this is from Castle Books, and it is 2005 is the publishing date. But this covers John Adams, John Quincy Adams, Charles Francis Adams, Henry Adams, Brooks Adams, and yeah, so it goes through the Adams family. But anyway, the front cover says, to imagine the United States without John and Abigail Adams and their descendants would be impossible. The pernicious Adams family has managed to be close to the heartbeat of America's political, intellectual life across more than 2 centuries. Adams, An American Dynasty, tells the epic story of the Adamses of Massachusetts, from the great political and philosophical contributions of the founding father John Adams to the present generation of inheritors of the family legacy who continue to serve the country. The reader follows the dramatic careers of John's fiercely independent son and the diplomat and 6th President John Quincy Adams, the pre-Civil War voice of honor, Charles Francis Adams, the famous authors Henry and Brooke Adams, and those who have carried on the dynasty's tradition in giving leadership in many fields of American endeavor, from scholarship and intellectual pursuits to statesmanship and business. And so I'm pretty excited about that. I think that'll be really interesting. Nice little addition to the collection. And so here is the last book of the book haul. So this is The First World War by Hugh Strachan. I'm not sure exactly how to say that. I apologize. But I like to learn. I don't want to say I'm a fan of World War I. I'm not a fan of any war. But I like to learn about World War I. It fascinates me, that that collision of old fighting and new technology. It was a big time collision, and so this war always fascinates me. So this is a Viking book, and it is from 2004. 2004, and this book is pretty awesome. It goes through the whole war, and it's got black and white photos throughout as you're reading, and so that's kind of nice. I always like photos. So let me read this cover to you, and then we'll wrap up the video. So it says, 90 years have passed since the outbreak of the First World War. Yet, as military historian Hugh Strachan argues in this brilliant and authoritative new book, the legacy of the war to end all wars is with us still. A truly global conflict from the start, the war and many of its most decisive battles were fought in or directly affected the Balkans, Africa, the Ottoman Empire. Even more than the Second World War, the First World War continues to shape the politics and international relations of our world, especially in the hot spots such as the Middle East and the Balkans. Strachan has done a masterful job of re-examining the causes, the major campaigns, and the consequences of the First World War, compressing a lifetime of knowledge into a single definitive volume written in crisp, compelling prose and enlivened with vivid photographs, many of which have never appeared in print before, and detailed maps. The First World War recreates this world-altering conflict both on and off the battlefield. The clash of ideologies between the colonial powers at the center of the war, the social and economic unrest that swept Europe both before and after, and the military strategies employed with stunning success and tragic failure in the various theaters of war, the terms of peace, and why it did not last. Drawing on material culled from many countries, Strachan offers a fresh, clear-sighted perspective on how the war not only redrew the map of the world, but also set in motion the most dangerous conflicts of today. Deeply learned and powerfully written, the First World War will stand as a landmark of contemporary history. And so, like I said, I do a big unit on World War I with my 7th graders, and they always love the unit. And so this will just add into that unit that I teach. And yeah, so that is my book haul. I thought it was a fairly decent book haul. I did not spend a ton of money. Let's see, all together, I think I spent $20, I think, for all those books. So I thought I did fairly decent. Tell me what you think if you've read any of these titles and you want to tell me a little bit about them, what your thoughts are. Feel free to leave those down in the comments section. I hope everybody's having a great day and a great weekend, getting rested up. Thank you for watching, and until next time, BookTube, happy reading.